So what does it really mean to be a teacher? We all think we have a pretty good idea, but great teaching is so much more than just listing off a bunch of facts. It's really an art form, and it's one that's backed by some pretty incredible science. Let's dive into what actually separates someone who just gives out information from someone who truly teaches.
So let's start with a big question, especially in the world we live in today, which is just flooded with information. Ask yourself this: are you a teacher, or are you just an informer? Now that might sound like a small difference, but trust me, it's everything. It completely changes how we learn, how we grow, and what we're capable of.
Just look at the difference here, side by side. On one hand, you have the informer. Think of Google, right? It just provides data. It's great at answering what. But a teacher does something completely different. They show you how to actually use that data. It's not about just pushing information from one brain to another. It's about unlocking a student's own potential. It's about sparking that curiosity so they start asking why and how. That's the real game changer.
Okay, so how does that unlocking of potential actually happen? Is it just magic? Well, no, it's actually pure science. Let's pull back the curtain and look at what is physically happening inside your brain when you have one of those amazing aha or light bulb moments.
This is the key insight right here. Every single time you learn something new, something physically changes inside your head. It's not some abstract concept floating around in the ether. It's a real, tangible, biological event. Your brain is literally rewiring itself in real time.
And the star of this whole show? The neuron. These are the fundamental building blocks. Just think of them like tiny little wires in the massive, complex electrical grid that is your brain, constantly firing off signals and transmitting information.
So here's how it works. When a student hears a new idea, a literal electrical spark happens in their brain. A brand new neuron is actually created just for that piece of information. And then, this is the amazing part, that new little neuron immediately starts searching, trying to find other related information, things the student already knows, and it builds a connection. That is the light bulb moment. It's a new connection physically forming inside the brain. How cool is that?
This is exactly why you can't just teach something once and expect it to stick. That new neuron, it's fragile. The connection it made can easily fade away. But every time you revisit that topic, the spark gets a little stronger. The connection gets thicker, and that knowledge starts to become permanent. It's a process, and it just takes a little bit of patience.
And speaking of development, you have got to see this timeline for the frontal lobe, the part of our brain that's in charge of making good decisions. At age 3, it's the size of a mustard seed, a tiny mustard seed. It doesn't finish fully developing until around age 20. This is scientific proof for why we can't expect a little kid to have the judgment of an adult. Their hardware is literally still under construction.
Okay, so we've looked at the brain's hardware. Now let's talk about the software, the unique learning styles that really dictate how each of us takes in the world. Because one thing is for sure, one size does not fit all when it comes to learning.
We all have our own preferences, right? These are some of the most common ways we learn. You've got your visual learners who absolutely need to see it. Give them a chart, they're happy. Oral learners need to hear it explained. But then you have the physical learners. They're the ones who need to get their hands on it, to build it, to take it apart. And of course, logical learners, who need to understand the system behind it all. Most of us are a blend, but we definitely have one or two that are our go-tos.
So, take a second. Think about it. When you have to learn something new, what do? Do you need to doodle it out? Do you need to talk it over with a friend? Or do you need to just lock yourself in a quiet room and read? Knowing your own style, that's a learning superpower.
So when you put all this together, the brain science, the different learning styles, it leads us to the practical stuff. A truly great teacher doesn't just have one trick up their sleeve. They have an entire toolkit filled with different methods for the right student, the right subject, and the right moment.
First tool out of the box, brainstorming. Now, we've all done this, but the goal is simple. Just generate a massive flood of ideas as fast as you can. And the absolute most important rule, the secret sauce, is no judgment. Not yet. That's what frees people up to say the creative, wild, out-of-the-box ideas that might just be brilliant.
For instance, a teacher throws this question out to the class, and the ideas just start to pop. Turn off the faucet, fix the leaky toilet, collect rainwater. One idea builds on another, and before you know it, you've got this incredible, rich list of solutions that came directly from the students themselves. That is brainstorming at its best.
All right, next up, role play. This tool is so powerful because it yanks learning out of the abstract pages of a textbook and plants it firmly in the real world. You're not just reading about something, you are becoming it, you're living it. And that's one of the fastest ways to build empathy and real-world skills.
So instead of another boring math worksheet, imagine this. You set up a little shop in the classroom. All of a sudden, subtraction isn't just a problem on a page, it's a real transaction. To give the right change, the student playing the shopkeeper has to figure out 20 minus 5. And I guarantee you, that lesson sticks because it's attached to a fun, physical memory.
So all of these methods, all of these insights into the brain, they all lead us to this final, really critical point. We have to get better at seeing the whole student and looking far, far beyond what a simple test score can ever tell us.
This is just such a perfect way to think about it. When we try to gauge a student's ability, we always go for the easy stuff, right? The exam grade, the score on a quiz, but that is almost always just the tiny visible tip of a much, much bigger iceberg hidden beneath the surface.
This visual just says it all. I mean, look at that little blue bar there, representing exam scores. Okay, fine. But now look at that massive gray bar underneath it. That represents the real stuff. A person's creativity, their resilience when they fail, their curiosity about the world. That's the true potential we should be trying to grow.
And this quote just hits it home perfectly. If we're only looking at the test score, we're only seeing the hat. We're completely missing the amazing, complex, talented person wearing it. True teaching, the real art of it, is about seeing and nurturing that whole person.
Which leaves us with a final, really powerful question to think about. If we all know that test scores are just the tip of the iceberg, how do we, as teachers, as parents, even as learners ourselves, how do we start to see, to value, and maybe even to measure all of that incredible potential that's waiting just beneath the surface?